It's that time of the year again, when WWE throws all the current storylines and feuds out the window in favor of brand loyalty.
There goes one now.
It's Survivor Series. We're talking about it here on Wrestling with the Business.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome back to Wrestling with the Business. I am Jeremy Bodette, and with me, as always, is Matthew More Than Man Lambert. And this time, we're talking about a show from this past Sunday that you may or may not have heard about, called Survivor Series. Now, Survivor Series is a classic going back,
I think it was 30
years. Yeah, 30 plus years. So, big pedigree, big history to build on here. I think the bar was set pretty high the night before.
Oh, most definitely.
By the work that NXT did at TakeOver War Games. So let's get right into it. Hey gang, before we get into the latest and greatest in the world of professional wrestling, we wanted to tell you about another show we've been binging lately.
Now, if you're anything like us, you're constantly rereading the books you love, listening to your favorite song, or watching your favorite movies. But we also like to get a fresh take on the things that we know and love. Scarifire does exactly that for the horror genre of film.
Scarifire is hosted by a couple of steely-eyed missile men, aptly named the Ace and Gov. Now, these guys have extensive experience in the performance genre, whether it be music, the stage, film, or, dare I say it, the squared circle itself.
Each week, Ace and Gov train their eyes and ears on a new target of the genre, and nobody is safe. Classic, foreign, indie, slasher, and Gorno alike.
So if you've got a hot date with a complete psycho, a classic you want a fresh take on, or just some time to kill in the car on your way into work, you should check out Scarifire. Scarifyer at the link below.
Now back to the action. Well, I got to start by saying that this is probably my least favorite pay-per-view of the big four, big five WWE pay-per-views.
Really?
Because I just don't like, especially since they started doing the brand split so many years ago, the idea of bitter enemies that have been feuding for the past 6 months, just setting that aside because Raw is more important or SmackDown is more important. It does not make sense.
That's true. Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, it might be better placed in Q1 as more of a setup for WrestleMania.
I mean, and we just had the draft, back in October. So some of these guys have only been on their brands for a month and a half tops.
Yeah, how much loyalty do you build in a couple of months? Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So the first match, the curtain jerk of the night, or the pre-show curtain jerk of the night, was Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Well, technically they pinned the Street Profits, trying to get the Street Profits over, but it was actually a 10-team inter-brand battle royale. And this one didn't last very long.
No, it was only 8 minutes.
Considering there were 20 people involved in the match. What did you think about it?
It was a match that wasn't announced beforehand. I think they just announced it maybe 2 hours before the show started. I mean, it was just a cluster. It was just a way to get a bunch of people on the show who didn't already have matches scheduled. But it was all right. It was what it was.
What do you think about having having Ziggler and Roode pin the Street Profits?
Oh, they didn't pin them; they threw them out.
Well,
over the top rope.
who haven't defeating is what I meant, because the Street Profits really haven't gotten any air since they officially got drafted into Raw. They've been sort of suffocating.
Yeah, they were there for the first couple of weeks and then haven't been seen.
They haven't even been cutting the promos that they were cutting before.
Right. In the entire build to Survivor Series, they haven't done anything.
I mean, they've basically been on vacation. I mean, you can kind of see them in the background if you're looking for them, but you know,
yeah, and those huge brawls at the end of the show.
Can't really. Yeah, you're playing Where's Waldo to figure out where they're holding their cups while punching dudes. You know what I mean? Like you're stuck. I mean. Do you see them doing anything with the Street Profits going forward, or are they just going to get lost in the echo?
I would hope they would do something. I mean,
why would you bring them up? They were killing it in NXT. Why would you bring them up?
Why would you bring up any of the NXT guys and not do anything with them?
I wonder if they feel like they got the short end of the stick because they got drafted up like right before NXT went big time.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if they're looking at what's going on with NXT right now and they're like, yeah, you know what? I would so much rather be kicking ass and taking names in NXT than
hanging out in the background here. It's possible. Supposedly, now that Survivor Series is over, the brands are going to be completely separate, much more defined. Now we can actually start building some real stories. So we'll see in the next week or two how that goes.
Well, they've got 5 months till WrestleMania, so they can't argue that they don't have enough time. Yeah, that's for sure.
It's true.
All right, next up, the second match of the pre-show was the inter-brand triple threat match for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship.
Oh, that reminds me. So they're keeping a score throughout the night of how many wins the brands get. So the first, that Battle Royal, SmackDown got the point for that.
SmackDown, yep.
And then on this Cruiserweight match, the champion is from NXT. He retained the title, Lio Rush. So now NXT has a point on the board.
And I don't want to talk so much about Lio Rush because he's getting plenty of air. I want to talk about Akira Tozawa because he wrestled in the pre-show and he got some air on Monday Night Raw this past Monday. Mm-hmm. Do we see the Red Brand doing anything with Tozawa?
He's still in that cruiserweight pigeonhole.
He's one of the guys that I think that they should
release. Actually, he faced Lio Rush one-on-one last night on NXT for the title.
Oh, okay.
So apparently the cruiserweights are still going to bounce around for that cruiserweight belt.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
But
not enough talent in each brand.
Yeah.
And I mean, the talent is there. There's just not enough people with talent.
Yeah, they're not going to put Tozawa in a match against, say, Baron Corbin or somebody.
That would certainly be contrasting styles.
It's only going to be cruiserweights versus cruiserweights, so they're going to have to travel, right?
Yeah. And what about Kalisto? I mean, he's another one. I mean, cruisers are a bit of a hole, but, I mean, Kalisto is not a guy that's on the short list for the Cruiserweight Championship. You think it was just like a last second, we need a guy for SmackDown, throw him in there?
Most likely.
Is there someone better that they could have picked?
Who's on SmackDown? I can't.
I mean, you knew SmackDown wasn't going to win when you saw Kalisto on there.
Right.
Well, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I ain't going to be that guy.
You know what? Former Cruiserweight champion Buddy Murphy. Oh, no, he's on Raw, isn't he?
He's on Raw, and is he still...
He might have put on weight now that he's out of the Cruiserweight division.
I mean, I don't think he actually gained weight, but I want to say, and it's popping into my head, don't hold me to it, I want to say that the last time he came out on, what was it, Monday night when he wrestled, I want to say they said like 214 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
So they put him, they put him above that, just out of that 205, so evidently they're working him a different angle. The third and final match of the pre-show was the big champions triple threat tag team, right? So it was the Viking Raiders representing Raw. It was the New Day, Big E, and Kofi Kingston. Our friend Xavier really isn't back yet, representing SmackDown. And then, of course, it was Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly from the Undisputed Era that were representing the NXT tag team match. And this was the longest match of the pre-show, which was kind of weird considering there was a 10-team match that occurred earlier in the pre-show. This one was for me, very, very solid match. It was 6 men, and it was literally 3 big man style performers and 3 sort of more little man style performers.
And you see they did a proper triple threat too.
Yep,
3 guys in the ring at once.
And I was very concerned that it would get mismanaged. It wasn't mismanaged at all. I thought it was handled very well.
So I have to say, I was disappointed with this match. I was much more excited for the match a couple weeks ago when it was first announced, when the Revival were still SmackDown champions. Once now the end of the match did surprise me, because I figured New Day's been added to the match, they're 100% going to win it. And they didn't. Viking Raiders did. But, yeah, I went into this match with low expectations. I wasn't crazy about seeing another New Day match.
Spoiler alert, this was Raw's only win of the night. This was the one point that they scored, which was funny because we've kind of been saying for a while that the Viking Raiders have pretty much been carrying the success of the Raw brand on their shoulders. Quite literally, and tonight, literally, they were the only performers to actually do their job and win.
But did you see on Raw this week, they didn't they hardly mentioned the one win. I don't think the Viking Raiders were even there, were they? Were they on the show?
They were there. I think I remember them being on the outside of the ring for the town hall at the beginning.
Nobody congratulated them on their one win then.
Well, that doesn't play because they aren't really heel or face right now. They're kind of in the middle. So if we knew they were heel, then it would be perfect for Seth Rollins to be like, the Raiders are the only ones that are doing their freaking job here. I'm going to associate with them and they're heel and blah, 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 right?
Yep.
But it didn't play into it at all. I think the Raiders are a very solid tag team, and I cannot wait to see them finally go up against like a Heavy Machinery or someone like that. I think that'd be an excellent WrestleMania match, something like that.
So that was the end of the pre-show. The brands are tied at 1 apiece. And then we start the main show with the Women's Survivor Series match, 5 on 5 on 5.
By the way, one quick comment on that. The fact that it was one win, and you essentially ended the pre-show with a tie.
Everything canceled out.
Only added to the meaninglessness of the pre-show.
That's exactly what I thought.
So again, they need to make a change.
Because remember, last year, Raw sweeped SmackDown, won all the matches, except for the tag match on the pre-show.
Yep.
But they never mentioned it. New Day won that match, won 1 point for SmackDown. It was never mentioned. New Day even complained about it, on SmackDown and whatnot. But really showing WWE doesn't care about the pre-shows.
Yeah, they need it. Again, it's about leading and lagging indicators, right? Your pre-show is a leading indicator. No one's going to watch the pre-show and they go, all right, well, I'm out of here. I'm not going to watch the actual show now that I've watched the run-up to it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You need to draw eyeballs to the pre-show if you're going to get people to watch the actual show. They're directly proportional. It's really easy math. So, all right, so the actual curtain jerk was the 5 on 5 on 5, like you mentioned, the Women's Survivor Series Triple Threat Elimination. It was Rhea Ripley.
So, well, first off, we didn't know these teams until after War Games, both of
Correct.
the NXT teams. So they wanted to see who was healthy enough to compete. So, Team NXT was Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Candice LeRae, Io Shirai, and Toni Storm. Now, again, this goes into my point earlier. The first 4 faced each other in War Games. They were fighting against each other. And especially Candice LeRae and Io Shirai have had a feud going on for months. But now they're working together. They're fighting next to each other. The end of the match, they very clearly were working together on this weird ending. And it just doesn't make sense.
I think it would have been nice if you'd seen a little bit more of the tag. No thanks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At least if they could have, not enough to change, nothing significant enough to change the outcome of the match, but enough to
there should still be some friction.
And again, it's all about good stories are like onions, right? There's 1,000 different layers to it,
right.
And it would have been really nice if they had a couple more layers, to this particular match. So, really quickly, because we haven't gone through it yet, Team Raw was Charlotte Flair, Natalya, Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Sarah Logan. What the heck was Sarah Logan doing in there? I don't know. And then Team SmackDown was Sasha Banks, Carmella, Dana Brooke, our girl Lacey Evans, and Nikki Cross got a little bit of air. Who was the best performer of the 15 of them in that match?
I'd say it has to be Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, she carried. I thought she put the match on her back, and she carried it after carrying the big match of the night before as well.
So, again, going back to the night before, they kind of did a similar thing in this match.
Yeah, they did.
Early on in the match, Io Shirai and Candice LeRae got knocked off the apron or got speared or something. They were apparently injured, selling injuries from the night before. So they got taken out of the match. Now NXT is down 3-5 suddenly. Eventually they come back from that and Rhea Ripley wins the match, but only because
it was basically it was what would have been the equivalent of like a heel.
Yeah.
A heel move, basically, right?
LeRae and Shirai come back out, distract the ref. Shirai hits a drop kick on Sasha Banks, and then Rhea Ripley gets the pin.
Let's just pretend for a second that this isn't the world of professional wrestling, and that let's dig deep into the kayfabe for a second here. Let's assume that this is like a bar fight, and you're sitting here as the bystander, watching, and you're telling that this happened in the place. These two women that hate each other, that have gotten in multiple fights before, rush into the bar together as best friends, and they beat up this other person because they're from another neighborhood, and allow someone that's kind of a mutual friend but kind of a not mutual friend to beat that other person. You're just like, the cop's going to be like, yeah, I don't believe that for a moment. There's no way that happened.
It was ridiculous.
So it was a very weird ending. It just seemed totally unnecessary. Why not just make it a good match? Why do you have to do some weird...
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure what drove that.
Now, one thing that they did keep going in this match, one rivalry, was Asuka and Charlotte. Asuka ends up spraying the mist into Charlotte's face and then leaves the match. She never got eliminated, and that led to Charlotte Flair getting pinned and eliminated from the match.
Asuka's a good heel.
She is good. I really like Kairi Sane as a heel.
Yep. Yeah, both of them together. They're really good heels. I think it works out really well.
So NXT got the win, and now they're up 2-1 on the other brands.
All right, so after that, I think it was like 30 minutes. After that 30-minute escapade, we moved on to the Champions Triple Threat, right, which was the North American Championship, which is currently being held by Roderick Strong. It was the USA Championship, which is AJ Styles from Raw, and then it was, of course, the Intercontinental Champion Nakamura, Shinsuke Nakamura, who, of course, came out with Sami Zayn, who, of course, did basically nothing.
He really didn't do much. I expected more.
I expected more, especially with him being like the heel's heel. I mean, it was kind of like heel versus heel versus heel.
It was.
Which for me kind of took away a little bit from the match.
I thought they did it well. This was the match I was most looking forward to because all three of these guys are fantastic.
Well, they were the three most talent. Yes, the level of talent was highest in this match.
I actually, before the match happened, I expected at some point Nakamura would lose the IC title just so they could put a babyface in there like Miz or something.
They really like him. I don't know why, because he's not doing a whole heck of a lot with the title, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think. And I'll make this one comment about all three of them that I think they do have in common. All of them are competent carriers of the title, but none of them are elevating the title.
Right.
Especially AJ Styles, which he ended up losing the title the next night. Spoiler alert. Which we can talk about a different time. But I thought that that should have happened a couple of days before, maybe the week before, and I would have liked to see a quick card change. And I think that would have changed the dynamic of the match dramatically, because AJ Styles isn't nearly the same type of wrestler that he was, let's say, 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. It's still pretty good, though.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, NXT ended up going over. This match was a little long too. It was 16 or 17 minutes, I think. This one was a little bit long.
And again, it was kind of he kind of stole the win. Yep. AJ hit the phenomenal forearm on Nakamura, and then Strong threw him out of the ring and got the pin.
Which is a good. I mean, when you're heeling a heel, you're a heel.
Right, but at the same time, the two NXT wins so far have been kind of iffy.
Which again is they're pushing NXT, but they're not pushing NXT.
Right.
It's kind of weird. It's almost like it feels kind of like they're almost afraid of the fan base. They don't want NXT to take a dive and to just get crushed the way that Raw did, right?
Right.
But at the same time, they don't want to weaken the other brands, knowing that they're already sort of in a nosedive, as compared to the NXT, right? Now that the pretty girl's at the ball. All right, so next up after that came the kind of a weird match that I don't really think was necessary to be in the show. It certainly didn't really seem to fit the Survivor. It just felt like they needed to put every title up.
Well, they had to do it because the other two main brand titles were up.
So Adam Cole faced Pete Dunne in a singles match for the NXT Championship. Again, this one lasted, for me, this was probably the longest match of the night. It just felt like it dragged because it was almost the same amount of time as the match before the triple threat, right? Mm-hmm. For the mid-level championship, we'll call it. This one lasted almost as long, but there was only about half the same amount of action.
Yeah, they were both selling injuries from their matches the night before.
Yeah.
So they were moving a step slower. But I still thought it was a good match. I think the crowd was more into this match than previous ones.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
The crowd was quiet for most of the night. Basically, only the Survivor Series elimination matches did they really get up out of their seats at all.
I think they kind of knew what was coming afterwards, though. They knew that this would be the dip in the show, and that we're on the build the main event now. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. Adam Cole defeated Pete Dunne, and that didn't impact the score of the show at all, anyway. So next up, the WWE Universal Championship was up for grabs in a the
Blue Universal.
What felt like kind of like a panicked rush to try to put some kind of a match together. They sort of stuffed Daniel Bryan with maybe a 2-week build-up. They sort of stuffed Daniel Bryan into the Fiend's wild path. And the Fiend, of course, defeated Daniel Bryan. But I think the match went on a little bit longer than we expected.
Yeah, Bryan got in a lot more offense than we expected. I think this was the Fiend's best match since his first appearance with against Finn Balor in SummerSlam.
Yep, I would agree with that. Yep.
But obviously he won. He hangs on to the title.
And I think we all expected that. Anybody that predicted Daniel Bryan was going to take the Universal Championship back is smoking something.
Yep.
Smoking something good. Okay, moving on. This was the men's Survival Series Triple Threat Elimination match, the 5-on-5-on-5. So you have, just going in the same order as before, Team NXT was Tommaso Ciampa, wrestled the night before. Damian Priest, wrestled the night before. Matt Riddle, wrestled the night before. Keith Lee, wrestled the night before. And Walter did not wrestle the night before.
And
versus
going.
Team Raw versus Team Raw, which was Rollins, McIntyre, Owens, who wrestled the night before, Randy Orton, and Ricochet, who I think, well, I'll talk about that afterwards. And then Team SmackDown was Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Mustafa Ali, Shouty, my boy Shouty G, and
King
Corbin. Yes, Baron Corbin. King Corbin. For the 5-on-5-on-5. And this one lasted almost exactly as long as the women's match did, maybe a titch longer. Who was the performer of the match for you?
Keith Lee, without a doubt.
And why is that? What makes you say that?
He was the last one standing against the quote-unquote faces of the company, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. And he more than held his own. He didn't do much in the beginning of the match, but those finishing few minutes were fantastic.
Yeah, if this match took place in September, I'd be calling him to be drafted into one of the two other brands.
Most definitely. And there's a chance he still could. Supposedly, Vince McMahon really liked him.
And the crowd was still really hot for NXT. No doubt about it. It didn't seem
It really seemed like Keith Lee was going to beat Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it did kind of feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
It felt that way, but your head had to know that wasn't going to happen.
Right. So Team SmackDown won the match.
Yep.
And I got to say, me, along with the rest of the crowd, Walter being the first one eliminated, the current NXT UK champion, the first one eliminated, hasn't been pinned at all since he came to WWE more than a year ago. This was his first pin, and he's the first one eliminated. That's ridiculous.
Kind of goes against what we talked about a couple of videos ago about WWE pushing more of a pushing more of an international audience.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it's the UK, and it's not like he lost the title or anything like that as a result, but he was eliminated mighty quick, and they really built him up as this big old powerhouse.
Oh my God, the crowd was going nuts for him. They were giving him the Walter chance. He was standing in there against Strowman and who's the other guy?
It was the
McIntyre.
The
big guys.
Yeah, and he ends up being the first guy out. Yeah, it was kind of weird. What did you think about the Lesnar Rey Mysterio match that came up next?
I actually expected Ray to win. No holds barred, anything goes. Knew he was going to have the lead pipe. I figured Dominic was going to play into it. But, Lesnar defeated him.
It was kind of blah. It was kind of blah.
It wasn't great.
I was hoping he would win too. The story of the match was quite good because there were a couple times when I really thought Ray was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was good. It built intensity, but I remember it was like, I don't know, it was long for a Lesnar match, but it wasn't that long. It was certainly less than 10 minutes.
Ray and his kid doing the double 619 was pretty cool.
That was pretty, and again, it made you think, oh, this is it. It's happening.
It's
finally,
happening.
Right? Lesnar's gonna, and then when he hit him in the nuts, when he did the nut shot.
That's the only way to hurt Lesnar.
And that was what convinced me that Ray was gonna win. I thought, the last time he got hit in the nuts, he lost.
The last 5 times.
Right? He lost the championship, I guess is what I mean. He lost the championship. And, the double 619s and stuff. I was like, wow, this arc has been going on for quite a while now. This arc has been going on for multiple months. And they are going to do it right. They're going to end it right. Mm-hmm. And then he lost. And I went, and they tripped at the finish line.
I expect Cain Velasquez is going to beat him at WrestleMania. He's going to hold the title until then.
Okay. Well, I mean, listen, from the perspective of Cain Velasquez, that's not a bad spot to start.
It's the Ronda Rousey start
with the WWE Championship. That's not a bad spot to start. I was afraid they'd send him right into the Universal Championship and make him the guy that defeats Bray Wyatt or something like that. That would be bad. Okay, and then
the main event.
Is this the second time this year that the main event's been women? WrestleMania and this one?
I think there's been other times.
Okay.
On other small
once again, women taking over the main event. It was the Women's Championship. Shayna Baszler representing NXT. Becky Lynch representing Raw. And, of course, the new and improved heel Bayley with her dark hair and her gold outfit representing SmackDown. For the Women's Championship. Right off the bat, Shayna Baszler went over. Were we surprised at that outcome at all?
I was surprised she won, yeah.
You thought Becky Lynch would go over?
Well, no, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Originally, I thought if NXT was going to win any matches, it was going to be this one. But then as they were building the story and kept saying, Bayley's an afterthought, it's just Becky versus Shayna, then I expected Bayley was going to be the one to pull out the win.
As it turns out, that was actually just accurate commentary.
Yep.
This heel turn has not helped Bayley, in my opinion, at all.
Yeah, they just have not been giving her good stories, good build.
They could have made it a massive... It's funny, a month before her heel turn, I was telling my wife, she saw Bayley for the first time, and with the whole wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men and everything, and I was like, I told her straight up, they'll never turn her. That's like turning John Cena. You can't turn her like that. You can tweak her. You can have her maybe do a couple of things you don't like, but she would never do a complete about face, and then 1 month later she does that complete about face, and I went, this is the end. They're just trying to build momentum so that she can turn again.
I mean, I think her attitude and the way she's gone about it has been decent, but it just has not connected.
It just doesn't
for whatever
fit.
Reason.
It just doesn't fit. Even with John Cena, at least he does stuff that's sort of mocking, you can't see me and stuff. I like hugs. I'm a hugger. How do you make that into a...
She doesn't hug anymore. That's easy.
Right, you have to ignore it. That's the only thing you can do, right? What is she going to become the anaconda and just start squeezing people to death? I love hugs. There's just... literally the best thing that you can do is drop it, but because that was so linked to her gimmick before,
mm-hmm.
I mean, her shirt was the little smiley face hugging itself. There's just... Yeah. There wasn't enough invested in it. It was almost like a quick... It kind of felt like my best friend's bad, so I'm going to be bad too. It's kind of the way that it felt. So it ended up falling really flat. Okay, the match itself, though.
The match itself was kind of slow. It dragged. there were a lot of. It seemed very, very choreographed.
Yeah.
And especially for Shayna Baszler, that was pretty disappointing. The crowd was not into the match at all. They were very quiet for this match. And then even after the fact, so Shayna gets the win by tapping out Bayley. And then to continue to look strong, Becky put Shayna through the announce table.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
So Shayna didn't even get to celebrate her win. So again, NXT is winning, but not made to look strong.
The one thing for sure that came out of the night was that Raw looked weak.
Yep.
SmackDown, I think everyone sort of knew SmackDown was the weakest brand. So I think that they were kind of like, they weren't super happy with it, but they weren't super disappointed in it with their 2 wins.
Yep,
right?
So it was 4 for NXT, 2 for SmackDown, 1 for Raw.
I think they kind of expected that, but I think that at least I, as a fan, expected there to be more competition between NXT and Raw. That didn't really, it didn't really materialize as the night went on. And I ended up, the whole night I was thinking, I'm eating Chinese food. I'm eating it. I don't hate the taste. I don't love the taste. I'm just going to be hungry again in an hour. That's exactly how I felt. And then I actually watched, this is only a little bit related to it, I continued watching, and I watched the
Steve Austin Undertaker.
Steve Austin, the Broken Skull Undertaker interview, which was an excellent interview.
Very good.
And I went to bed well fed. But yeah, I thought that the show overall was, I would give it maybe like a 6 out of 10. I mean, it was better than halfway. And this is not contrasting it with War Games at all. And I thought that you could probably give 5 of the 6 points to NXT for the work that they did.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a decent show overall. It was one of the better pay-per-views, actually. I expected it to be a lot worse. But, yeah, still...
It's kind of blah.
And what really got me was it was in the same building. You look at the front rows, there's a lot of the same people from the night before.
Green shirt dude.
But
shout out to the green shirt dude.
But the crowds were night and day. I mean, they were so hot the night before on War Games, and throughout Survivor Series, they were next to silent.
There was no draw. I mean, with War Games, you got the cage, you got the rings, you got the... There was no real gimmicky draw. I mean, the one gimmicky thing they had, the no holds barred match, was a lead pipe and a nut shot. Mm-hmm. We all knew that Brock Lesnar was not going to go to the woodshed. Right? Yep. We all knew that Rey Mysterio wasn't going to go through a table or just, no one would be juicing or anything like that. We knew what this was, so the fact that they made it no holds barred just meant nothing.
Yeah, there was no reason for it.
Meant nothing. It really took the intensity down. So, not really a lot of pressure. A lot of what felt like manufactured pressure throughout the weeks. Raw really needs to be good, and SmackDown's really trying to defend their honor, but nothing. There was a lot from the NXT side, right? We're here.
We have something to prove.
We got something to prove. We're the new kids on the block. You're going to get crushed. Hey, Kevin Owens. Hey, Kevin Owens. Right? That was interesting. The brands did not respond at all to it. It was actually very interesting. It was almost like watching a little microcosm example of NXT, aka AEW, and Raw and SmackDown being the WWE behemoth, and you just saw, and a lot like what we've seen over the last 5 or 6 weeks. You just see the new brand just come in and roll over the old brand like a steamroller. You know what I mean? And ends up just being a nightmare. So
comment below. Tell us what you thought was the best match of the card. If you had any surprises, let us know.
As always, keep kayfabe, follow the money, and we'll keep wrestling with the business.